what you think is normal behavior may actually come from childhood trauma. From a psychological perspective, every word we say and every action we take reflects the influence of our childhood experiences. There are roughly 5 common patterns that are directly related to childhood trauma. The first one is sexual resentment. The most typical sign of sexual resentment is being addicted to choosing a partner. This means that whenever you meet someone of the opposite sex, you automatically evaluate them using partner selection standards and treat them as a potential romantic option. If the other person shows even a little friendliness, you may start thinking, "Do they like me?" and quickly develop romantic feelings. That's why people joke online about things like falling in love with a military instructor during training, falling in love with a store manager while working part-time, or saying that every profession can produce a groom. People who do this are very likely experiencing sexual resentment. For women, this often comes from a lack of fatherly love in childhood. They didn't have deep interactions with men growing up, and therefore lacked the ability to handle relationships with the opposite sex, so sexual attraction easily takes over. For men, sexual resentment may come from harmful cultural conditioning, where women are unconsciously treated as objects to be watched or evaluated. The second pattern is living in fantasy. Children whose emotional needs were not met often escape into a fantasy world. They imagine themselves as tragic figures, imagine things they can never have, and project these fantasies onto the outside world. For example, many people today love shipping couples, or CPs. In psychology, this is called vicarious satisfaction, meaning you project your own desire to be loved onto a couple you like and watch their romance to satisfy your fantasy of a beautiful relationship. The same applies to idol fandoms, being a dream girl or dream boy, and even enjoying stories about domineering CEOs and forced love. Even though people know these plots are cliché or even unhealthy, they satisfy a fantasy of being specially chosen or favored, which often comes from being ignored in childhood. The third pattern is being overly good at reading people. These individuals often seem socially smooth, emotionally intelligent, and adaptable. They can easily sense what others are thinking. This usually happens because they grew up with emotionally unstable parents. They never knew when their parents would suddenly become angry, so to protect themselves, they were forced to closely observe tone of voice, facial expressions, and emotional changes, and to predict danger in advance. Some children were raised in relatives' homes and had to constantly read the room to ensure they would be taken care of. Growing up in this kind of environment trains a strong ability to read others, but it also causes people to care too much about others' feelings while ignoring their own. The fourth pattern is difficulty concentrating and being easily distracted. This is not because you are stupid. Many people who struggle to focus were yelled at or beaten frequently as children. Neuroscience research shows that children who experience frequent verbal or physical abuse live under constant emotional stress, which affects brain development and makes it harder to concentrate or learn new skills later in life. On the other hand, people who excel in their fields, such as many Olympic champions, often mention that their parents gave them a stable, supportive, and emotionally safe environment. That's why they are able to focus deeply and fully use their talents. The fifth pattern is catastrophic thinking. This means always assuming the worst outcome. For example, a small mistake at work makes you think you'll be fired, or a delayed reply in a relationship makes you think something is wrong. Even without anxiety, you force yourself to feel anxious. This happens because in childhood, you were not allowed to make mistakes. Your parents had very low tolerance, and mistakes were met with harsh criticism or even physical punishment. As a result, whenever something goes wrong, you instinctively predict danger and prepare for the worst. Over time, this becomes an unconscious reaction. I'm not sharing this, so you can blame your parents or shift responsibility onto others. What I want is for you to trace these behaviors back to their roots and understand how they were formed. Many people are deeply troubled by these patterns, and they seriously affect daily life. If we want to change, we must first understand where these patterns come from so we can break old ways of thinking and grow. If this helped, hit like and subscribe for more helpful videos.